Hello YouTube, my name is Isabella and welcome back to my channel Stubbornly Bookish. Today I will be doing part 2 of my huge collective book haul. Just as I was sitting down to film my first part of this haul, I got a delivery full of books from Book Outlet, so I separated all of my Book Outlet books together, and this is a huge collective Book Outlet haul. Half of these books I purchased at the Book Outlet box sale, which is when you go to the physical Book Outlet store. They let you into a warehouse and you can choose how many boxes you purchase, but essentially you get to fill a box of books for $35, and the box is actually quite substantially sized. But then I also went and purchased probably about 10 books very recently off of Book Outlet because they had that spend and save sale. I've been eyeballing quite a few books. A lot of books were on my wish list, so I was like, you know what? It's time to do it. Who cares if you're trying to restrict your book buying? So I learned from my mistakes. I was a lot more selective this year, and I'm pretty happy with the choices. The first book I have is one that I've actually already read and love. It's I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. This is one of my all-time favorite contemporary stories. I just wanted to repurchase a copy because the dust jacket on my original got like super ripped. This is a contemporary slash fabulism story. It follows two twins, two different timelines. Very beautifully done. I actually want to reread this one this year. This was one of the books that got wet in the box and I was quite upset about it, but it was Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. She is an incredibly famous author. She tends to write a lot of stuff in verse, and this one is in verse as well, and it's a middle grade story. This is just her kind of sharing what happened to her growing up in the 60s and 70s, being a Black woman in America, and I'm incredibly excited to read it. I'm bummed. It was already a little bit beat up, but then it got beat up by the water, and that was sad, but I am still happy to read it. Oh, I actually forgot to warn you that because I have like maybe 30 books in this haul, I'm going to be going very quickly through these stories and synopses, just because I'm actually a little pressed for time, so I need to rush. But I picked up 2 Octavia Butlers. The first one is Lilith's Brood. This, I think, is the one with her take on vampires. I purchased another book by her a few months ago, or whenever it was, but I thought that was the one about vampires, but I was wrong. This is the one about vampires. And I also grabbed Parable of the Talents. This is the sequel to Parable of the Sower, which is one of my favorite books of 2018. Highly recommend you check that book out. It's incredibly dark, a ton of trigger warnings, but very, very, very good. And I'm excited for the sequel, but actually pretty scared because it was very dark and upsetting. This is one of the books that I grabbed that I don't actually know anything about. It's Ceremony by Leslie Marmon Silko. This just comes in a collection that I really, really like, so I grabbed it. I'm not mad about it though, because I'm usually pretty good about cover pickups and buys, even with these box sales. But this one I succumbed to it. Really like this edition. I also grabbed H is for Hawk by Helen Macdonald. I just always assumed when I saw this story that it was Indigenous fiction. I'll have to actually properly look into that, but I think it is. I also grabbed The Collapsing Empire by John Scalzi. John Scalzi is one of the most, I think, renowned sci-fi authors. I also own Old Man's War by him, and this is the case that I recognize the cover, the author, so I grabbed it. I also grabbed Force of Nature by Jane Harper. This is the sequel to The Dry, which is a mystery thriller that I have not read yet. Will probably read soon, and I guess I just grabbed this because it was the sequel and it was quite recently came out, so I was excited for it. I also grabbed Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. This I'm just going to assume is an adult mystery thriller that I think has gotten good reviews, and that's why I grabbed it. I need to stop buying thrillers. At least I need to read some thrillers before I continue to buy more. I don't know why I do this. And then I also, I grabbed Death's End by Cixin Liu, and it's translated by Ken Liu. Cixin Liu is a very prominent sci-fi author, one of the most renowned, I think, sci-fi authors currently writing, and I've just always wanted to check out his work. I've been really meaning to read a lot more sci-fi. I don't know why I'm so daunted by sci-fi, especially adult sci-fi, but like, I really want to get into the genre more. Now, these last few books are the books I was most excited to have found during the sale. One of them being This Mortal Coil by Emily Suvada. This is a young adult sci-fi story, but I believe it like takes place on Earth and deals a lot with clones. I may be entirely wrong, but a lot of people really like this story, so I'm happy to have it. This next book is actually really weird. A weird choice for me, at least, and it's Vincent and Theo by Deborah Heligman. It also happens to be a little bit beat up. The reason why I originally heard about this book was because it was nominated for the same prize as Strange the Dreamer. I think it was The Prince, but it kind of piqued my attention, and it's basically a fictionalized version of the Van Gogh brothers and their relationship. I know nothing about Van Gogh other than like he cut off his ear, but I don't know, this book's just always kind of been interesting to me, and it seems very out of my wheelhouse, but interesting. I'm excited for this one. I also picked up The Devil's Thief by Lisa Maxwell. I got excited when I saw this because this was very recently released. It's the sequel to The Last Magician, which is a fantasy story that kind of involves time travel in New York City. I'm very excited to read the first book, so I grabbed the sequel. Recently, a lot of people have been reading it and really loving it, so I'm happy to have the sequel. I also got my hands on Emergency Contact by Mary H.K. Choi. This is a story about two very introverted people, like meeting and exchanging phone numbers and then like communicating via text, and I think that's how their relationship starts. I was originally interested in this story because it is a college-based YA, at least I think, but it has gotten reviews like across the board. There have been 5-star gushing reviews and like 1-star hating it reviews, so I have no idea where I'm going to fall with this one, but the cover's really pretty, and I was willing to give it a shot. I went back to check quickly if there's anything else I'd be interested in, and there was. One of them was Save the Date by Morgan Matson. This is a cute YA contemporary that focuses on this girl and her like sister's wedding, and like everything goes wrong. I've read 2 Morgan Matson books. One I really liked, one I didn't. So I'm interested to see what I think about this one, but it's also signed. I also found To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christou. I hauled this in my ebook haul. Ooh, did I lie? I think I totally lied. I did do a book haul this year, but it was all ebook copies. And to be honest, I don't count ebooks to my physical like TBR because they don't take up space, so I don't really care. But I do own this on Kindle, so I have it in 2 editions, and it's a Little Mermaid retelling, I'm pretty sure. I think the book that I'm the most excited to have is Autobiography by Christina Lauren. This is a story about, this is a male-male romance between a gay and bisexual boy, and I think it takes place in like Utah, which is very heavily religious. I could be talking out of my ass right now, but our main character is the bisexual boy who was out and proud, but then when he moves to Utah, it forces him back into the closet. But then he starts or enters this like writing seminar in which you have to write a book in like the 4 or 5 months you do this seminar for, and the leader of the seminar is actually the person who won from like the year previously and like got a book deal and all this stuff. And then there's a romance. A lot of people love this story. I'm happy to have it. I think it's beautiful, and I'm so glad that this is the book that's in like the nicest condition, because some of these are a little beat up, but that's okay. And I'm so happy to have this book. Everyone raves about it. Okay, so almost done. Now I just have to haul the books from my online order. The first book I see I'm very happy to have, and that's Blanca and Roja by Anna Marie McLemore. Anna Marie McLemore is known for doing gorgeous magical realism. This story follows a family in which every time like a descendant has kids, they always have 2 daughters, and then one of these daughters is abducted and taken away and turned into a swan. It's a very odd premise, but magical realism tends to be odd, and hers seems to be some of the best. I can't wait to read some fiction by her. So happy to have this in my possession. I had a sneaking suspicion about the price of this book. That kind of sucks. So I picked up Red Sister by Mark Lawrence, a book that I'm incredibly excited to read. Did not tell me that it was mass market though. Let me read it first, see if I like it, then maybe I'll get my hands on a different copy. I haven't actually read something in mass market for a very long time, so that would be an interesting experience. I finally got my hands on the 6th and final book in the Fallen Kingdom series. That's Immortal Reign. I've read the first 3 books in this series, and I very much want to finish the series very soon before I forget everything that happens. This series is pitched as the young adult Game of Thrones, which I guess it's fine. It's a political YA fantasy with a very standard like medieval type setting. Really enjoy it for the characters, but I'm kind of nervous for the last few books because apparently the series kind of goes downhill. The next book I grabbed was Obsidio by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This book was essentially the reason why I placed my book outlet order. It's the 3rd and final book in the Illuminae Files series. I've read the first one, didn't actually ever end up picking up Gemina, but I'm very happy to have this in my possession. It's in pretty great condition, which is I was a little nervous for. Hopefully I can finish off the series soon. They're fun. At least the first book was really fun, so I'm happy about this. I'm basically excited for all of these books. What's new? But I also got Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse. All I know is that it follows Native American mythology. I'm not sure which tribe or branch quite yet, and its own voices, and she's basically a monster hunter / killer while also sort of in like an apocalyptic type world. Did a terrible job explaining that, but this book kind of blew up last year. So many people read it and loved it, and I'm happy to have this in my hands. I'm pretty sure this has won a few awards now. One book I have read and I'm very happy to now own is Sadie by Courtney Summers. I read this book in January via audiobook, which is, I very recommend the audiobook. But this is an incredibly dark YA story. It follows a young girl who is trying to exact revenge on the man who murdered her sister. It's kind of dark and upsetting. It also has this podcast element format in there. It was a very good quality story. Really enjoyed it. Highly recommend. Oh, I forgot I purchased this one. I also grabbed 1,000 Beginnings and Endings edited by Ellen O and Elsie Chapman. This is a young adult anthology all revolving around Asian mythology and Asian authors. I believe all of these stories are own voices, and I'm just very excited for it. There's a lot of authors in here that I'm interested, that I've read from, or I'm very interested to read. So yeah, super, super happy to own this one. I don't tend to purchase a lot of anthologies, but I'm happy to have that one. I also grabbed Blood for Blood by Ryan Groudon. This is the sequel and finale to the Wolf by Wolf duology. I've been looking for this edition for such a long time because the original editions are actually out of print now, and they've changed the covers, and I don't really like the new covers. But this is an alternate history retelling in which the Axis powers won World War II, and our main character, who I think is also a shifter, enters this like motorcycle competition race in the hopes to win and then subsequently kill Hitler. I'm also so happy to have this book. It's You Bring the Distant Near by Maitali Perkins. This is a multi-generational story, and I'm so happy to finally own it. I've wanted to read it for so long. I think it was Joss from Squibbles Reads talking about how impactful this story was. It focuses on immigration and like keeping your culture with you after you've immigrated. I believe this takes place in like 3 different countries, 3 different points in time. It's supposed to be an absolutely beautiful story. I can't wait to read this one. The final book in this haul is one that I was very thrilled to see on Book Outlet's website, and that's A Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. This is the author of the Kiss of Deception trilogy, which I have not yet continued, but this is set in the same world as the Kiss of Deception but follows entirely new characters, and I just love this cover so much. Honestly, this is like, I wanted this 100% because of the cover. Yeah, I like the first book in the Kiss of Deception, and I am pretty excited to read on in the series. It's just really beautiful. A lot of people actually really like this story, which is encouraging. So that's it for my hauls for hopefully a very long time. I do not need to purchase any new books anytime soon at all. Please, for the love of God, I need to stop. I would like to know, out of all of these books that I hauled today, are there any books that you would recommend to me? Please let me know in the comments, because I just brought in so many new books. Oh my God. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you again very soon. Bye.